and she meets the criteria, then you likely do. That strengthens the case for, treating these payments as shared expenses, not gifts or rent. The IRS is less likely to view intra-family, contributions as taxable income when she's claimed as a dependent for the reasons that you mentioned. Ultimately, if somebody is doing a predictable amount where there's an agreement in place and they cover, a specific amount every month that, basically is a monthly amount for a room, utilities, or food, it can be considered as rental income that would then need to be reported, where there's an expectation or an understanding that this is a regular amount being paid for her housing. Where it's a gift is typically when it's voluntary, it's not tied to a specific obligation, and it's coming in, there's no formal agreement for her to pay, it's irregular. That's where, it would be often considered a gift. If it's just her portion of a shared household expense, so a proportional amount, let's say a third of the utilities, if there's 3 people living there, there's no profit motive, typically that would not be reported as income and seen as kind of mutual support within a family household. And I think, again, because she's claimed as a dependent, that would further strengthen that case. But at the end of the day, kind of deciding exactly how to handle this, which is likely exactly the way you've been doing it, you would really want to talk to your CPA about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, Lane, we appreciate your call. Call anytime. Let's go to Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Mary. How can I help you?
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call. It's so funny that you're talking about special needs because I have a special needs person question too. So my daughter is 25 years old, and she, I'm 54, so I kind of want to put something away in regards to a trust or what have you. I'm not quite sure what all is really out there and which is the most beneficial for a kid, because I have 2 regular, typical children as well. They're 22 and 23. My question basically is, I know that there's special needs trust. I've heard something about an ABLE account or whatever. I just don't know the best route to go to best protect her, because we do have some annuities that, of course, the 3 of them are the beneficiaries for. So
Yeah,
I don't know how
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, you could use perhaps both of them together. And we actually did a program on this not too long ago. I'll have my team get your information and we'll send you a link to it. But essentially, the Special Needs Trust and the ABLE account offer a way to manage finances, and the key is they preserve eligibility for government benefits, so like supplemental security income and Medicaid. Essentially, the Special Needs Trust holds assets for the benefit of the person with disabilities, again, without disqualifying them from the government benefits. It funds the supplemental needs. It gives flexible funding, so it can be funded with family money or inheritance or even life insurance proceeds. And then it can provide lifetime support. It can even be tailored to their unique needs in terms of how the funds should be used. And you can have some, say in constructing that and putting all of that in place, and then the trustee administers it. The ABLE account is similar, can't put as much in there, only up to $100,000 is exempt from the Social Security asset limit, but that provides tax-free growth. It's easy to manage, and it has an even wider range of uses, so it can cover not only housing but food without impacting the SSI and the Medicaid. And that's why a lot of people use both of them. The special needs for large sums like inheritances or long-term planning, the ABLE account for smaller everyday savings. Putting them together can be really powerful. What I would do is find an estate attorney who has some expertise in this area to set them up. But I think at the end of the day, having one or perhaps both of them in place so that you've got the assets there and it doesn't affect government assistance is going to be really helpful. Stay in the line.
Faith Investment Finance is underwritten by certified Kingdom advisor Kevin Bruce with Align Investment Research, helping families across Collin County honor God by stewarding wealth with wisdom and purpose. Because true peace of mind comes from aligning wealth with God's design. Learn more at align7.com or call 972-972-8465. 972-972-8465. Align is a registered investment advisor.
Ministry, don't buy the narrative that is limited to a select few. Every single believer is called to execute our King's Great Commission. To let us be about our Father's business, our nation's greatest and most enduring need for repentance of the unbeliever. Repentance across the board. Believers who live lifestyles of repentance.
Join Abraham Hamilton III on the Hamilton Corner, weekdays at 5 p.m. Central on American Family Radio. Faith Fi is grateful for support from One Ascent. One Ascent believes that your values inspire why you invest and how they can inspire how you invest. One Ascent's goal is to provide solutions designed for every need and invest in businesses that bless the people and places God has made. They want to help investors do well by doing good, to explore a new way of investing that aligns with your values. More information is available at oneascent.com and by clicking Analyze My Investments.
Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Today, put your heart into something that makes an eternal impact. Heart for Lebanon is sharing the gospel and protecting girls from early marriage, child labor, and violence. Your gift of $114 helps reach 3 at-risk girls with hope and a brighter future. Give generously. Text FAITH to 98656. That's FAITH to 98656. Or visit faithfi.com/Lebanon.
The Ten Commandments are the foundation of a life that pleases God.
God gave us rules because rules can keep us safe from danger. They help us to know what is right and wrong. They are God's word. They are God's laws, and they show that all humans are sinners.
When we instill them in our children, their lives will be forever changed.
They show us the way to live, the way to love our neighbor, the way to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind.
Soli Deo Gloria, to God alone be the glory.
The Ten Commandments Speech Challenge is a great way to get our youth aged 7 to 17 to learn and really focus on the depth of the Ten Commandments. All they have to do is write and present a 3 to 5 minute speech on why the Ten Commandments are important, with special emphasis on the first commandment. It's also a great family project because you can help them write and record their speech before June 30th. All the details are at afr.net/10 commandments.
I'm grateful to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. Sit back and enjoy. We're going to cover a lot of ground here in our final segment. We'll get to as many calls as we can. Let's go to Florida. And Lauren, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi there. How can I help?
So I'm a teacher in Florida, and when I started teaching, they had 2 options. You could either do the full pension or you could do the investment plan. But in order to do the pension, you had to stay with the state for within the state for 8 years. So at the time, I didn't plan to stay here. I was going to move, so I went into the investment. But now I'm 19 years in, and I'm thinking that maybe I made a poor choice, and I should probably switch over to the pension. So there's a deficit in the pension. However, I do have an IRA that has some money in it that I could roll over to buy into the pension. And there still would be a little bit of deficit that I'd have to pay for myself. So I'm just not really sure if that's a smart idea to do that or to just leave the money in the investment plan. But whatever it's invested in doesn't seem to be getting like a very good return. But I know that like what it invests in is like some kind of funds, but I know I can take control of that and kind of change what the things that it's being invested in so that maybe try to, I guess, gain back some of the loss. So I'm not really sure what the best option is.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you some thoughts. It may be helpful just to have an advisor look at all the options that are available in the investment plan and just help you look at historical performance and maybe run some scenarios for you to play out you staying and getting, a more reasonable rate of return, perhaps by repositioning some of those investments moving forward and projecting what you would have at retirement versus the pension plan. A lot of you're going to have to work with your specific retirement plan to determine, whether they'll let you move over. And to your point, it sounds like you've already investigated that a bit, and they will. Usually you have like a one-time option, and you need to really think through what the implications would be of taking that option, and the cost that will come with it. The benefit of staying with the investment plan is you get to choose how you invest. Now, depending on which investment you've selected, that may or may not, work out for you. And I wouldn't want you to try to be, ultra aggressive to kind of quote, make up for lost time. I'd want you to have an appropriate investment mix for your age and time horizon. But it also could be that you were maybe too conservative, and so you do need to be repositioned. A lot of times there's portability, you have the potential for higher returns, and unused funds can be passed to heirs, which is typically not the case with the pension, and you get obviously the tax advantages. The benefit of the pension plan is you've got a fixed monthly payment for life. You don't have the market risk, so a lot of people get more peace of mind by just knowing that they're not having to bear that full risk. And then a lot of times they include cost of living adjustments along the way to make sure that it keeps up with inflation. And then usually if you're married, you'll get a survivor's option there as well. So I think the key to determining whether or not it makes sense to stick with what you've got, even if you were to reposition some of the assets over, would ultimately be, younger teachers under 40, typically the investment plan is better. If you're, over 50, usually the pension is the better option because it's that guaranteed income that reduces risk closer to retirement. If you're between 40 and 50, it can kind of go either way, depending upon just kind of your risk tolerance and what you're feeling about, what would give you the most peace of mind. Usually years of service is a big factor, but as you said, you're approaching 19, or maybe you're already at 19, so you're getting to that place where, that pension could be pretty attractive. Again, assuming you understand the full amount of what it would take for you to actually get into it. And then you'd have to really compare what your guaranteed monthly income stream would be in the pension versus what your need is, and make sure that it does fit into your overall financial plan in terms of what you think your budget will look like in that season. So I think going back to where I started, an advisor could help you first evaluate, where are you at in terms of the investment mix in that investment plan. And, could you just stay where you're at and make some changes versus you actually buying into the pension option and then running some scenarios on what will it actually look like to fund your lifestyle in retirement, and what will that pension, produce, and does that cover the gap? And if so, you may be thrilled with that, to know that you've eliminated the market risk and you've covered what you need to on a monthly basis, which will give you more peace of mind. And then I think once you see those scenarios put in front of you, perhaps it'll become more clear what the better option is for you given where you're at today. Does that make sense? I know I threw a lot at you there.
Yeah, so it's just making that decision that's hard, because like I said, I have this big chunk of money in the IRA that I'd have to pay into the pension. So it's like, I don't know if it makes sense to do that or just leave them separate and keep kind of going as it's going. So like you said,
and that's why I think, you're never going to be able to, I think, have complete peace of mind until you really see those scenarios played out over time. And so that's where an advisor can run some illustrations to say, okay, let's say we leave your IRA where it is, and let's say we run that out with just a reasonable annual growth rate to determine what we'll ultimately have in the IRA if you leave it alone. And then if we reposition your investment plan with the state, here's what that could look like. And then based on those projections, here's what we think that might be able to, you might be able to pull out on a monthly basis and keep that for the rest of your life, which, by the way, you would be able to leave to your heirs, which is a nice feature, versus giving up the investment plan and all or the majority of the IRA in exchange for a monthly check, and what that would mean, for you and or your spouse, but it goes away at death. And then I think once you see those real numbers in front of you, I think it'll become clear which is the better option. But it's not something you want to guess at. You really do want a professional to help you kind of run those scenarios out, because I think once you see it in plain sight, it'll be pretty clear.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I would head to our website if you don't have an advisor, faithfi.com, click Find a Professional. Any one of those CKs in Florida would be able to you could pay them for their time. They could run those scenarios, and you'd have a much better idea on what you need to do at that point. We appreciate your call today. Indianapolis is where Chris is located. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I would really, I'm almost retired, but my wife is. And I was wondering, does our credit reports matter?
It always matters. It matters less because you're probably not going out looking for a mortgage. You're probably, if you're buying a new car, hopefully you've got the cash to do it. Maybe you're taking out a loan, then it certainly would matter. But it matters less in that retirement season of life because typically, the main purpose for your credit report, your credit score particularly, is the higher the score, the more likely it is you're going to qualify for the best rates and terms. And when you get up above that 760, you're going to qualify for top tier credit, which means the very best rates that are out there with the most favorable terms from the most number of lenders. Are there other considerations or uses for the credit report? Yes, there are, namely insurance premiums and employment consideration. So I think it's always a good idea to keep it in good standing, but I suspect it's just going to happen by default. I mean, if you're an on-time payer, you're keeping your balances low, with revolving accounts like credit cards, your limit, you're never more than 30% of your limit. Just by doing those things, you're going to keep your credit score high. Is it important to do so? Yes, but it's certainly not critical for the reasons that I mentioned. Does that make sense, though?
Yeah, it's very clear. I appreciate that.
All right. Thanks for your call today. We appreciate it. Thank you. Let's head to Chicago real quick. Molly, unfortunately, I only have about a minute left. Understand you're taking early retirement from the government, and you're wondering about what to do with that thrift savings. How much do you have in there?
I think a little over $1 million last I checked.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, no problem. And are you planning to go get another job or retire fully?
I plan to be a full-time mom and daughter.
Okay.
Parent, so.
Yeah, I know that can be challenging, but what a blessing that is. What is your age, if you don't mind me asking?
Early 60s.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I would say you've got a long time horizon. We want this money to grow. Typically in your 50s, we would say probably a 60-40 portfolio, 60 stocks, 40 bonds. You could get more conservative or more aggressive from there, but that's a good benchmark. And that would be for the portion, the 60 that's in stocks, probably half of that in the C fund, the other half in the S and the I, and then for the 40 in bonds, that would be the F fund. You could also connect with a certified Kingdom advisor at faithfi.com if you wanted somebody to manage. But I'd say stay the course, get a little more conservative, and congratulations on your early retirement. Folks, thanks for being along with us today. I'm Rob West, and on behalf of my team today, producer Devin Patrick, call screener today Pat Montague, researcher Jim Henry, I'm Rob West. This has been Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. We're so grateful for our partnership with AFR, bringing you biblical wisdom as it relates to financial decision making. Have a great day, and if you want to check out our website, go to faithfi.com. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
Pulled out all the stops to try to destroy the family for a very long time. That's why the American Family Association stands boldly in the gap to protect and strengthen this God-breathed institution. Visit AFA.net today and discover the resources available for you and your family. And if you would, please take a minute to show your support. That's AFA.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family
President Trump and Elon Musk engaging in a war of words on social media Thursday. Lucas Tomlinson reports.
First shots were fired in the Oval Office.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we will anymore, but I'm very disappointed in Elon.
White House aides rushed to schedule a call today with the world's richest man to broker a peace deal. Both Trump and Musk were textually active Thursday afternoon, hurling invectives at one another. Trump posting, Elon was wearing a fin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. Musk responding, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate.
A ceremony was held at the Normandy American Cemetery in France today in honor of the 81st anniversary of D-Day. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reflects on the ceremony.
It is a sheer privilege to stand in this cemetery among heroes and before God. An incredible monument to the sacrifices American warriors made on the beaches of Normandy.
More than 4,000 Allied troops were killed on D-Day, with thousands more wounded. The invasion of continental Europe in 1944 paved the way for the liberation of France and the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer has subpoenaed former President Joe Biden's White House doctor. Chanley Painter reports.
Dr. O'Connor conducted the former president's annual physical, where in 2024 he described Biden as a, quote, healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. Well, in a letter to the doctor, Comer wrote this, quote, the committee expressed its interest in whether your financial relationship with the Biden family affected your assessment of former President Biden's physical and mental fitness to fulfill his duties as president. And the House investigation will also explore the possibility that Biden's auto pen was used to carry out sweeping presidential actions.
The illegal alien from Egypt who carried out the firebombing attack on a group of pro-Israel protesters in Boulder, Colorado, appeared in the court Thursday. District Attorney Michael Dougherty reads out some of the charges.
2 counts of use of an incendiary device, and then a number of counts for attempted use of incendiary devices, as well as an assault in the 3rd degree count and an animal cruelty count for the dog who was injured in connection with the attack.
And finally, a high school male athlete in New York is reportedly allowed to identify as a girl so he can watch female students change clothes in the bathroom and locker rooms. But then he switches to identifying as a boy to compete in sports.
This is at the South Colony Central School District in New York. The Defense of Freedom Institute, or DFI, filed a federal civil rights complaint against the district. AFN connected with Angela Morbido, Director of Media Outreach and spokesperson for the DFI, to explain what her team has learned.
So we became aware of this issue going on where one of the high schools within the district will allow a male student to enter the girls' locker room and bathroom while female students are undressing for track and field practice. Now, this student is permitted by the school to identify as female during the day and thus enter the women's locker room, and then he goes to track and field practice where he's allowed to identify as a boy.
She said her team has seen, quote, kind of similar cases, end quote, where a student chooses to identify as a member of the opposite gender, but she said this is the first she's seen where a person actually changes his or her identification during the day. She explained that it also happens to be a violation of the law.
Obviously, these female student athletes shouldn't be penalized in any way because they don't want to change clothes in front of a male student. They have a right to a separate space, and the fact that the district doesn't recognize this is a problem. So that is why we filed our complaint with the Federal Department of Education, specifically their Office for Civil Rights, to say, hey, wait a second, these people are, we believe, violating Title IX, and we want you to look into it so that more students don't have to go through this unfair process.
I'm Bronson for American Family News. I'm Mr. King.
The political climate in America has changed. We've been given a reprieve, and we have to work together to take advantage of that momentum and effect even more cultural and spiritual change. We can rebuild America. The American Family Association is working to do just that, and when you join with your support, it helps maximize the impact. As our thanks, we'll give you a DVD of biblical financial advice from Rob West called Biblical Stewardship. Please visit afa.net and get started today.
This
This is Trivia Fridays 888-589-8840.
At the rate of inflation, what would the $6 million man be worth today?
That's a good question.
But the lady sent me the wrong shirt. The one I got had Huey, Dewey, and Louie on front of it.
Is that true?
At least he didn't say, Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trivia Friday on American Family Radio. All right, welcome to the program. We're here every Friday. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And good morning, JJ Jasper.
Great to be here. Two buddies were talking. One said, I heard the First National Bank is looking for a new teller. The other one said, I thought they hired a new teller last week. Yeah, that's right. That's the one they're looking for.
Ba-da-boom. All right, it's Trivia Friday, also known as Learning University. Learning University is on the air. And tell us what we're doing here today, Ed, and every Friday.
Well, we are stretching the brains of our listeners, our students here at Learning University. We are, each of us professors, going to challenge those students with 3 questions apiece. And we invite our listeners to call in and try to answer one of those questions. And we'd like for them to send a question our way, see if they can stump the panel. So the number to call if you want to get on the program is 888-589-8840. Now, we do ask if you have gotten on the program with us in the last 2 months, 8 weeks. We ask you to wait a week so that others can get on the program, have a better chance. 888-8840. And answer is what we like for you to do. JJ, one original 9 questions is kind of special.
One. Do that, I want to give a shout out to some new friends in Newton, Kansas. Last week I was in Newton, Kansas, and I met Michelle and Troy Slabach and Matt and Austin, James, sisters, Charlene, I think her name was, and her husband. They drove down from Topeka to be there. Russell, Lori, Wayne, and Bev. Rodney came up, and he said he's been working at the same place. He got out of high school, started working at this plant in 1979. He's still there. And his sweet wife met her. She's from South Korea. And he doesn't have a computer, doesn't have a smartphone. He listens with a transistor radio in his pocket. Wow. I think right about this time right now. So say hi to my new friend Rodney. But I literally met hundreds of AFR listeners, and I heard so many wonderful stories. The folks in Kansas love AFA and AFR.
We love them.
Hey,
grateful for them.
The mystery question. One of these original 9 questions is a mystery question. If you land on it, answer it correctly, you'll hear this sound. The beloved cowbell. Yeah. That means you're going to win a really nice AFR cap. If you don't win the cap, we've got DVDs, books, T-shirts, caps, a lot of stuff in our AFA store.
How old do you have to be?
You have to be 11 years old or older. We don't have an upper limit. If you're under 20 and you want to call in, you can. But 11 years old and older.
If you can hear. You got to be able to hear. Huh?
Yes.
Well, that applies to 60-year-olds in today's world. Is today first time? Oh, no.
No. It's just our regular.
Did we get the phone number already?
I did.
Okay, sorry.
I was giving it. I gave it out twice while you were looking up ball scores.
I was fiddling.
In full disclosure, I saw what he was typing out there. Dear Elon, dear Donald Trump, please make up. Don't let this linger. So thank you for trying to be a go-between.
That's right.
I think we're more likely to have a pay-per-view SmackDown than a
reconciliation.
They ain't make it. These two don't make up much.
Well, I will say this: if you
accuse somebody
anybody to be in the Epstein files?
If you can't,
I'm sorry.
And you say you need to be impeached?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
If you can't get them together and to reconcile, then pay-per-view SmackDown is the next best thing.
Right, they pay off the national debt.
Here's the deal. This will be a pretty different twist. Let's get Putin to go and broker a deal between them two. Said, y'all been spending all y'all's energy trying to get me and the Ukraine fella together, that short comedian running the country. I want to come over there and broker a deal between y'all and get y'all to kiss and make up.
Right. It's a mess. All right, so go ahead, Ed. Give your questions.
All right, here are my 3 questions. Today, by the way, is the anniversary of D-Day. So I have a D-Day question. In the Normandy invasion on June 6, 1944, what were the code names for the 5 beaches upon which Allied forces landed? Now, if you can answer this without looking it up, we'll send you a ball cap. Wow. Now, I think we mentioned something about that last week, or someone called in. But here's the question again. In the Normandy invasion on June 6, 1944, what were the code names for the 5 beaches upon which Allied forces landed? Second question, what was the name of the failed organization that preceded the United Nations? That preceded the current failed organization? Maybe I can say it that way. What was the name of the failed organization, international organization, that preceded the United Nations? And then third question, this is from one of our listeners, John. Sometimes a public space will post a sign that says, area under CCTV surveillance. What does CCTV stand for? Sometimes a public space will post a sign that says, area under CCTV surveillance. What does CCTV stand for?
Here's what I got. First question. Of the 7 colors of the rainbow, which is the middle color? Of the 7 colors of the rainbow, which is the middle one? Second question. What soft drink called itself the Uncola? What soft drink called itself the Uncola? Third question. True or false? The standard music played from an ice cream truck takes melodies and rhythms from the most common children's lullabies to subliminally connect emotionally and attract children.
You wrote that yourself?
This is right out of, I'm not going to tell you the source, but is that true or false? The standard music played from an ice cream truck, it comes from children's lullabies to subliminally connect emotionally and psychologically, to connect with kids and attract kids so that they'll scream and their friends scream and we'll all scream for ice cream.
I don't know how that could be true, because wasn't that on Kiss's first album? That rock group Kiss.
Yeah, what about him?
Yeah, didn't they have that ice cream truck song on there?
I don't think so.
I'm just kidding.
Well, that wouldn't be the first time that American companies have used emotional manipulation to get you to buy something, right?
We were so poor. Whenever the truck would come, we'd hear that music, and everybody in our neighborhood would just go gaga. My folks would say, "Oh no, that music means they're out of ice cream." Most kids are going to be disappointed. Everybody flocking to the truck. No, Jimmy, Michael, Kelly, Karen, y'all stay in the yard. Right. But that music playing. Sorry, we're out of ice cream.
All right, here are my 3 questions. Number 1,